I'm happy and excited to see so many people here. I see some of familiar faces. I think that the topic might be some of the interest of you, and the matter of fact that you are here shows that you are interested and you're dedicated and you're on the right track. So again, on behalf of the gPMF Forum, I'd like to welcome every single of you to be here today. So I'm going to start with a little bit about sorry about that. So anyway, I think the intro already, so okay, here's the agenda. So my agenda is pretty simple. I'm going to start with a little bit about my background. So that will help set the context of some of the topics I will touch later. And then I wanted to talk about why project manager. I think that that message is so important that has rippling effect down the road when you're trying to get into that role. And then I will spend a lot of time going through the early stages because that's where the struggle, the frustration comes from, and I will share the lesson learned from my experience. And then, I go into the building the credentials while you are not a PM. And lastly, I will touch a little bit about how to apply a job. That last topic, it will be a little bit light because I think there's a lot of resources, information online. A lot of them are applicable to any job that you apply, whether it's a PM or non-PM. So I will just touch on the things that's applicable when it comes to my experience. And I would like to have this session to be more interaction because this is truly a journey, a recital of the journey that I took for the last 2.5 years. It's hard to capture and say everything happened during the time. I feel like if there's more questions, so feel free to stop me at any moment, and I will be happy to address them. Because I only have 10 plus slides, so there's no way that I can touch anything that's relevant to you, that's more important to you. So feel free. So I came to the United States in 1998. So that was a dream come true, and in terms of both my personal life and career life. Then I got my MBA soon after, and just before the dot-com bust, I was able to land a job in Silicon Valley a couple months before the stock market crashes, March 2000. So I was very blessed at that, from that aspect. Then I started as an Oracle DBA in the heart of the Silicon Valley. My company is right next to HP, so you can imagine I was so happy. So I spent over 10 plus years in the technical position. So Oracle DBA, then moving to SAP, and then coming to Genentech still as an SAP technical job. And just after 10 plus years, and I just get numb. It's very hard to get excited for me to do the same thing over and over again, no matter how new the technology is. So after some soul searching, after some struggling, I realized I need to do something with my career. So I decided I wanted to become a project manager. And then after that, I launched the journey, and I will detail a little bit in the later part that how I embarked that journey, and eventually that dream comes true. So I guess to just data point that I'd like to remind you that 10 plus years of IT experience, pretty linear career. There's not much diverse experience there. So this is the first question I'd like to direct your attention to. Why project manager? I feel like this is so important that that especially needs to be addressed and clarified in the beginning. Obviously you can always learn and figure out on your way towards that goal, but I feel like the benefit of figuring that out and clarify, identify that, and then have that in your brain is so important. It yields more benefit than you figure that out at a later point. So as I showed, there is a laundry list of benefits of being a project manager. Some of them may resonate to you, some of them may not. So being a project manager is it's something next to being a leadership role without being a manager. So you manage a project, you manage a team, but you actually don't have, in my opinion, the burden of managing individual performance in the long run. And then you also have a strong sense of accomplishment because projects always has a finite time period, and you get things done in a short period of time. And also you are in the forefront of leading the changes. Most of the projects are about implementing new technology, new process. So the whole setting is to enable you to be the front runner of new things. So that's all very exciting. So there are a bunch of other reasons. So by the way, I got this from the internet. So the reason is that, some of them it's not what drives me. What drives me personally is because I like to work with people. It has it's a job that has the capacity of working across departments. So the people that you interact with has a broader range of people. And then the other aspect is I like to keep learning the innovation part, the learning the new things. That's always very exciting to me. The reason I'm saying that is because, so I would like to ask you to spend some time to think about what drives you, especially what relates to your core values. So for example, I want to be a PM because I want to get promoted, or I want to have a better recognition, I want to get more bonus, whatever. So that, to me, that's not your true drivers. I mean, this has got to be something come from your heart that relates to your personal values. This is so important because this is a journey. This is something not going to happen overnight. I'm sure there will be frustrations, deterrence, or even rejection, flat-out rejections in front of your face. So when that happens, I want to make sure that you stay focused, you don't get deterred by those kind of events. And in some cases, there is an easy way out. So in one case, I was invited to consider a manager role. It's a service desk manager role. It seems to be very easy because I was there, I was doing the rotation, and I have the qualification, but I think that after thinking, I think it's not where I want to go. So I rejected that opportunity. And the other thing is, I invite you to think about that is because this actually becomes the core message of your marketing campaign. This becomes your slogan. So when you talk to other people, the first question, most likely they will ask you is, why do you want to be a project manager? And why now? So you need to be able to look at their eyes and say, okay, this is why. And that they need to come, the message needs to come through you, or not something you made on the fly that, it doesn't come, people can tell when the message is not sincere or it's not coming from your heart. So that's very important. Just wanted to spend a couple minutes talk about that. Okay. So now you, after some, soul searching, research, and you find out, okay, I wanted to be a PM. This is where I want to go. This makes me excited. So the first thing I find is, actually I find out that in the middle of my journey, I wish I did that earlier, or I realized that earlier, is that there is a perception. I think a lot of you are aware there's a perception about you somewhere in the organization. So there's a lot of words around perception that can be, in my mind, that can be pre-assumption, stereotypes, unconscious bias. So all of that, to me, that means perception. So there's a perception about you as the person in on the job. There's a perception about what the job or role will be like, or should behave like. So perception is actually very powerful. And in Genentech, in a lot of the corporate, when we evaluate a person's performance, so there's, from my understanding, is basically two aspects. One is your result. One is your value. Results is what you have accomplished. You get bonus. Your bonus get assessed based on what you have accomplished. which is immediate incentive for you continue doing that. Then the other aspect has a long-term impact is your value, how you've done your job, how you come to this far. This has to do with perception. Are you leaving a dead body behind when you are achieving those amazing results? Or are you, working really, truly collaborating and helping others? This actually has a bigger impact because from my interpretation, I could be wrong because I'm not a real manager, but my interpretation is that your merit increase, your promotion, your long-term career, long-term stock incentive, that has a lot to do with perception, how you perceive for a company in the long run, how you can add value to the company. So that drives a lot of aspect of that. And the perception is very real. So in my research about this terminology, I ran across this, there's a research article by a Harvard professor. She is a professor of social ethics. So she's conducting a computer test. So the test is to uncover the unbiased conscious between for Black people and elderly people. Then she herself was shocked that even herself, when she paired the good with the Black, her finger does not move as fast when she paired good with white. And she's not white or Black, she's of Indian heritage. So that just shows you how real, so how powerful this unconscious bias is. And basically, it's a gut reaction, right? So coming back to my story. So remind you that I've been in a technical job for so long, and I've been doing a pretty good job. So when people are talking about Fang, the first thing that I realized later on that comes to their mind is Oracle or SAP. Nobody or not too many people link me or think of me in a PM capacity. So I get that blank look sometimes when we associate my name with a PM. So my revealing moment came. It just at one point. So there is an opening in my own team. And then the headcount owner is a director that I work directly with. So I have done a couple of successful jobs with him. So I have very good working relationship with him. And that's a perfect dream job for me because it's in my domain. It's SAP PM job. And I know the manager, and I know the team. I know the subject domain. However, when I had a discussion with that person, the people who has the account, and he pretty much said anything but no. So he said everything that words that translates into no, what I'm trying to say is. So that was just a revealing moment, like somebody you work so closely with, you have good relationship, you have good reputation, and then they're not willing to even let you to apply for that position. Obviously, I was agitated and frustrated, but I did some reflection. I realized that in that person's mind, that I am just I'm not a PM candidate. So what do I need to do? So I need to me, I view this as a puzzle, right? So PM that comes with all kinds of the skill set you have, the credential you have, the way you behave in front of others. So I'm just going to put those pieces together to the best of my knowledge. So the rest of my presentation touch a lot on that. So the other thing that I also learned towards the later part, but I wish I had done earlier, is find your advocates. So this is a transition, in my case, after so many years in the career, it's not easy. And I think that anything you do, it's better to find someone to help you along the way, at least to cheer you up. So in this category, in my mind, I have two lists. One is the people who are either my families or my close friends, people who know me well, and then they support me, they believe in my capability, and they think that I will be a project manager successfully someday. So those people, it's nice to have them to cheer me on. So one example I have is one of my close friends. When we're talking in a group meeting, we're talking about some PM opportunities or standards in the SAP world. So she actually raised up her hand and asked me a question on my behalf. So that's how much support that I get from this group of people. The other benefit is that some of the opportunities, I will talk about that later, the entrance opportunities that you have, you are going to work with your teammates, your immediate teammates, by having them on your side, and then to have them to work with you on your project or initiative. That's a huge plus to you, because it reflects overall, good on the project as well on yourself. The other list, the second list, is someone who is not your friend, but someone who has influence power or have authority to actually grant the opportunity or extend the help that can actually open the door for you. So those people are very critical and very influential, and then how you win them over. What I find out is that in my case, I was lucky that I have two advocates, the two persons that stands out in my mind. One was my direct manager, and the second one is a mentor. So the way that I interact with my manager, so obviously that depends on the person, right? So not every manager will be your advocate, no matter how you try. I mean, that happens, that happens. So in this case, what happens is I openly share my career inspiration with him. And then when we had that discussion, so obviously that core message, your anchor comes in, and the conversation goes, why you become a manager, why now, what was the reason? And then once you laid out everything in front of him, and then he understands where you're coming from, and at least that he understands the reason of your transition. He's not afraid that you are leaving this job in any moment. So I think the benefit of being Genentech employees, the company's culture actually supports that. The managers, if a good manager, they're not afraid of you to helping you to leave your current position to some other career path. So what my manager helped me to do is he gave me a couple of one or two of the entry opportunities for me to work on. And then as I started to build up my credentials or my reputations, he actually fought for me in one of the turning point project for me. The project manager didn't want me at all. And then later on I find out the project sponsor, my manager, and the project manager, three of them, they had a closed door discussion talking about where to stick me in. Obviously there's a fight. He doesn't want it, but my manager still wanted to put me in. So that project turned out to be one of the most critical projects on my journey. So the second person I have is kind of like a mentor. So again, I'm having the same conversation. I don't land her in the first place. I have to but I have to just go through several steps. Eventually, I just happen to find her. What I find her, she's very important, and she is the PMO of the IT America. So she actually did a presentation last month. So she is in her late stage of her career, that she is ready to groom, she's ready to mentoring, she's ready to give to other junior team members. So I was just lucky to be there. How I found out is I applied a couple positions and got rejected. And so at one point, then I asked her, can we have a conversation? I don't know her she is so high up. I don't know her, but I just said, can we have a conversation? She said, sure, yes. So then we started a conversation. I said, can I have a meeting with you every 6 weeks or so? She said, yes. So just start, gradually, those kind of informal conversation become something more regular, more constructive. What she has done for me is that when towards the later part of the transition, I applied a career job that which I am in right now. And there's a moment that the hiring process got stalled. So I was devastated. I don't know what was the reason. I think everything seems to just fit in place. The manager wants me, so we already had a discussion, but all of a sudden everything just stalled. So I have no idea what's going on. So, but she has the insight. So she and I, we had a quick discussion. I remember that day, so we were in a big conference, and I just pulled her on the side and said, okay, I'm running into this issue. And by the way, she knows I'm applying. Every time I apply, I always share that with her. And she said, there's nothing you need to worry. It's not you. There's some discussion about something else I couldn't remember. And so it's not about you. Just sit tight, let the process evolve itself. So just that simple conversation, a few sentences, just helped me to ease the worries. Like, is it me? Am I gonna just fail again? So that's a huge help. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah.
So when you met with your mentor, did you have a set agenda, maybe that you had or that you shared with her? Did you have questions each time you met with her, or was it more a casual, just talk about what came up?
Yeah, it started pretty informal. So obviously, my whole purpose is to want to become a PM. So I shared that with her. I shared that the reason why, the core message, your anchor message comes through. And then as this meeting becomes more regular, I start to become more organized. Because obviously we cannot spend an hour talking about, mumbling about my frustration, my concerns. So I started to prepare questions or the actual issues I face when I'm managing my project, my initiatives or whatever. And then she was able to give me very good tips. So I will touch base on that later. And then so people from that level, that anything they give you is so valuable. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So opening up the entrance opportunities. So obviously, you're motivated, you want to get in, so you need somewhere to start. Where do I start? So I actually remember at that time, I don't know what to do. I mean, where do I start? I don't know anybody. I was a very techie person. I don't network very well. I don't know anybody. I don't know a lot of people outside of my immediate team. So I'm a little bit, introvert to some extent. So don't know where to start. So I guess my best bet is to start where I am. So I start with my manager. So the conversation happened, and the first opportunity he's willing to give me is something. It's not even a project. It's just maybe initiative or something. So that was to build a team website for our team. So I was very excited, obviously, because there are people, resources, or names assigned to this from different parts of the team. But I didn't realize at that moment, I guess I was too naive to realize this is like at the bottom of people's priority list. Because remember, my team's job is helping customers, building systems, bug fixes, releases, or you do your day job. Building a website is like at the bottom of their priority list. So I actually have no priority, no authority, no money. I thought I have some money. Then later on, it said, no, there's no money, nothing. You're just gonna do it. Figure out a way of doing it. So I find that obviously I run into a lot of challenges. There's not too much of influence power. I cannot really get people aligned with where we're doing. And so the team member that I have, a lot of them, they're technologists like I do. They are very strong opinion. There's just endless debate about what platform we're going to use, blah, blah, blah. So I spend months and months of going nowhere, just running that circle. But long story short, I eventually find out I have to do a lot of things on my own. I have to just roll up the sleeves, like do things on my own. But what I learned is that how you influence people is what roles you can put into those people. Because I was naive enough to thinking, okay, I can assign different role or tasks to different people, and then people can work towards a common goal. But the things that I have in mind is not necessarily suitable for them in that instance, or they may not be interested in this case, right? So it's the bottom of their priority list. So I kind of just shrink to the level of their role, or my expectation to them is, okay, I'm gonna do all my work. You guys just tell me, what do you need from this website? What do you want on this website? What information you want to see? So that's just how far I'm willing to go to make the whole thing work. Obviously, that's a long kind of painful experience. But I actually did build a website based on the Google technology, and then a lot of people were impressed by the outcome of it. And what's more, this becomes a media venue for one of my projects later on. So I was able to, when the project manager wanted to say, okay, I wanted to share a status update or have a way to communicate my status update in a more of a public format. So what's the best way to do that? I said, Google site. That's the site I built. I can easily pull something out within a day or something. So that just worked out perfectly. The other opportunity I wanted to mention is, again, it's kind of a leftover. Nobody wants it. Nobody pays attention. But I just jumped on it with full enthusiasm. So this is the Windows 7 capacity, Windows 7 deployment. So that was a few years back. At that time, when they approached me, again, this is a low priority. Windows is just people use. From enterprise-wise, the people in the SAP team, they feel SAP is the core ERP system. That's the backbone of your IT infrastructure. Versus with desktop, it's like nothing. I mean, it's like a very low-tech thing. So nobody cares about it. And the same situation, I got assigned a bunch of people. So I obviously started working on it. What I noticed that later on I found out, so what happened at the time is the project manager of the Windows team and his associate actually came and have a meeting with me. And I'm like a nobody, and I'm just like helping with the team, helping with the testing in the domain of the SAP. So at that time, it didn't give us second thought. Okay, the meeting happens, we just talk about the testing. So later on, as the project progressed, I start to realize how big this project is. This is a Roche initiative. This is a global rollout. This is on the goal of the IT director. So this is on the corporate goal. So it's for a successful Windows 7 rollout. I guess that at that day of the stage, the project was in the early pilot. They really wanted to have some of the testing to be done at an early stage so that they can estimate how much effort needs to be done for other teams. So I didn't know that actually. I just jumped on the opportunities. And this time what's different is I actually have more people in the team. And then I find out that there are full-time employees and there are contractors. And I love to manage contractors. It's so straightforward. You tell them what to do and they will just do it. No, like FTE, you have to be very polite, be very gentle, use all your diplomatics and tell them this is important, blah, blah, blah. I need your cooperation. Contractors, especially offshore team, so straightforward. You tell them what to do, they will just do it. And they're so on time. I really appreciate it. I like to work with them. So I have those people. Now I have a mixture of contractors and FTE in my team. So I start to have regular meetings, status report, and things like that. So gradually, I'm kind of building a reputation little bit of a credential, then people are starting to willing to give me other stuff, which have a bigger business impact as visible to other people. So I'll talk about that in the immediate slide. So any questions so far? So this is directly related to, so now we're moving to building the credentials. I think I covered a lot of that in the prior topics. So the reason I choose this picture is this is a Sherpa. So this is someone who carries the weight along with the mountain climbers all the way to the top of Everest. So when you see the victory pictures of those mountain climbers, you never see these people. But these people actually, they are the true heroes. They carry all the jumps, all the weights. They are doing the same work, plus maybe 2 or 3 times more, but they never get the credit. And that's who we are. At least that's what I was at one point. So at one point, I became the project shepherd. I carried a lot of the weight. I don't get visibilities. My name does not show up as a project manager, but I don't care because I made it. I gained experience. I gained recognition. That's what I need, right? So that the other titles, that comes later. So here are the roles that I play, trying to gain different kind of experience. So again, this goes back to the perception. So as me, a Fangfang, and I'm a technical person, I don't have, people cannot associate me in a project manager role or capacity. So what do I need to do? So project manager, you need a leadership. You need a communication. You need to know how to work across boundaries, right? You need to know how to manage time, resources. So all of those roles help me in putting those pieces together. And obviously those, you cannot, I mean, ideally you wanted to do a real project manager role and then you can gain everything at once, but unfortunately in my cases, I have to just do little job, playing different role and gain experience, and eventually the whole puzzle comes together. And then people start to associate, when they talk about Fangfang, then they have association with, communication, leadership, results, delivery. And then when that comes in, that just becomes, a lot of the conversation becomes so easy. So project coordinator, this is actually one of the, I would say one of the most rewarding roles that I've ever played. So remember I mentioned earlier there is a project that my manager wants to suck me in. The project manager doesn't want me. So I played a project coordinator in that project. So the project is actually upgrading the North America SAP to another version. And the project was very ambitious. So typically the project will be completed, let's say, more than 6 or 8 months. But in our case, we have to cut it almost in half, 5 months. So that was very aggressive. Then the other aspect is that we are working with offshore team. So this is the first time we're on a project full scale. We're working with a new offshore partner. So the whole thing is being supported by offshore team. Obviously, we have our own core team as well. So there's other, those are 2 challenges we are facing for that project. So my manager stuck me in as a project coordinator. So obviously, I did a lot of things. Meeting minutes, invitation, calendaring, all the good fun stuff, right? Meeting minutes, meeting coordination is actually very important. Because when we're in the meeting every day, because it's an offshore project, so we got to have early meetings with the offshore partners almost on a daily basis. Because we are in a crisis, so this project was not going well, so now we have to have meetings every day. And because I know the team well, my team knows I wanted to be a PM, so they are willing to go along, and eventually I become the person to facilitate the meeting. So instead of PM facilitating the meeting, being the the speaker or something, I speak. I do a lot of facilitating and speaking because This is my turf, this is SAP, I know that very well. So I was able to coordinate a lot of the discussion. And then my PM, he's a smart guy, right? He's very experienced. I will mention to him at a later slide. He's a good PM, so when he knows things are going well, when he knows how he got the help that he needs, he will just let me do it. So and then that role, that project coordinator role, eventually that evolved into a technical lead. My manager see I'm doing so well and say, okay, I'm so busy, because he's a technical lead. He said, I'm so busy, I'm now a manager, and I am so busy, I have other things to do, can you just play my role, without the title, say, yeah, sure, I do that. And later on, there's a final phase of the project where everything needs to be deployed to the production. So that's the final piece, and also one of the most critical stage. I get to be the deployment lead. So it was a very complex operation. We have coordination between different continents, because the system touches different continents. We have offshore team. We have the finance, obviously the customer. And whenever you touch a system that has to do with the finance, people always get nervous. So there's a lot of coordination. So fortunately, everything went well, because my team is willing to work with me because of my domain knowledge of SAP. So that went well. And from that moment, people are thinking, Feng really can be a PM. And actually, some of my advocates, my friends, they came to me and see, you actually are the person carry the project. The project manager, he has a title, he does the high-level reporting to the steering committee executives, blah, blah, blah. I actually am the person carry a lot of the weight of that project. So that further solidified my confidence that I'm ready to go. I'm ready to step out and apply or seriously thinking or seriously talking about being a PM. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm trying to speed up a little bit. Okay. So this is the second aspect of your building your credentials. So there's a lot of skills that you need to build as a project manager. So a couple things I wanted to touch base is from the soft skill side, you have the 2 bullet points, they're related. That's why I put an N here. Communication and organizational savvy. So again, going back to being a technical job, 10 plus years, so I'm used to straight talk. So if these things cannot be done, cannot be done. That I treat everybody the same way. This is just who I am. As a project manager, I'm not saying you're trying to be someone who you're not, but you do need to bear in mind that there's techniques, styles involved when talking to different people. So you try to use that to your advantage. Instead of just like one way of communication, one style of communication. And as I'm in this role, I start to realize there are there are turfs, political turfs, there are people, egos and things like that. You need to respect that and then just observe that. So it's not that you are trying to be political, but it's just that you know how to work in that way that makes me become more effective. And so far I haven't had any people to backstabbing me or do anything crazy, but just so that you have that mindset helps you a long way. The second part is the hard skill is the slidology. So this is the things that my mentor taught me. He pointed to me. So in one of my meetings with her, so I said, okay, I have this deck. I need to present it to actually a very high up, the senior director of the IT. So she is in charge of the entire Roche SAP system. That's how high he is. So I have this slide. I wanted to present it to him and his direct report. So can you take a look for me? And she looked at it and she said, your story is all over the map. So you don't, people won't get it, what you're trying to say. Even though you have a good idea, a bright idea, but people don't get it. So have a look at that book. So I borrowed her book. Then later on, I bought a copy of my own. So I end up using a lot of the techniques and styles from that book. It's not just about how to putting together beautiful slides and whatnot. It's about how to tell your story in a way that people can understand you, can follow you. So oftentimes I find ourselves that we have something message to say, but people actually don't get it. Just I actually came to her a couple of times, even today when I have key messages or difficult messages. In one instance, I have to ask for a timeline extension for 2+ months. So obviously, I know what I want, I know my ask, but I just don't know how to put my story together to ask. So she helped me to put that story, to connect the dots, to make something that's logical and also not throwing someone under the bus. So I would recommend that you focus those two aspects. And then there are trainings for those. Cytology, obviously, it's a book you can read. And then communication organizational savvy, there's several classes in the Genentech. So those are immediately available. I attached that in the appendix, but you can just easily find them in the quiz. Any questions so far?
You said there's a book that your manager helped you, or you borrowed. What's the name of that book?
Cytology.
That's it?
Yeah.
Cytology?
Yeah. It's a very well-known book. Very well-known.
We can send out the link
Okay.
to the book.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have, now the story is, I have a little bit of experience, and I have recognition, and I have some skill set, and now the other piece of the puzzle is, how do I look in front of, how do I make myself even more like a PM candidate when people are talking about me? So that's just no longer just my immediate team members. There's people, extended network, or people within the company or outside the company. They need to know me. They need to view me as a PM, not an SAP administrator or whatever, right? So the first thing I recommend you to is work at your LinkedIn profile. So I spend a lot of time working, polishing my LinkedIn profile, because at that time, my profile still looked like I'm a SAP person. Has all the technical work I've done, the position I have, linear career, not very interesting. So I actually don't know what to put there. I mean, all I can think of is SAP project. So what I did is actually pretty straightforward. I look at other PM's profile. I look at the things that they have that resonate me. It's not like I'm trying to copy paste what they have done. I look at the format that can help me to highlight the things that's related to PM that I have done, that can showcase my PM skill set, my PM experience, but in my current role. So I did a lot of work on that. So the way I did it is just look at tons of PM profiles. What's important for PM, right? So the other thing is dress for success. This is another interesting story. So remember that project manager, he doesn't want me? So I obviously looked up on him. He's one of the most well-known project managers. He's very respected in the IT organization. He's actually at the, even though he's a project manager, but the level of him, he's actually at the direct level. That's how highly regarded he is. So in that project, I was able to work closely with him. And one day I just noticed, he's a very athletic guy. And he posted a picture on his Google Plus or whatever. He's dressing his running gears. And I noticed this guy is actually very skinny, very small. He has a very shaded shoulder, so his body looks small. But when I noticed, this guy looks different when he appears at work. Then I noticed that he dressed shirts. The shirt has frames that makes you look broader, bigger. that brings certain level of authority. Then I start to pay attention. He never wears any other things. He always wears shirt every day. So obviously he's a very lean guy. He can wear anything he wants. But why he wear that particular set of clothing? That shows that when you're in front of others, you want to appear to be professional, reliable, trustworthy, and you want to project certain authority. So that's why I get a little bit cue of how to adjust to actually, image-wise, how to project yourself as a project manager. And the other flip side of story is that she is also a project manager. She actually wears face eyelashes. I mean, obviously she's beautiful. I mean, this is her personal preferences. But when she conducts meeting with me, I could not pay attention to what she said, but look at her eyelashes. Because they just flap, flap, flap. It's so cute. So I'm not saying that detriments her capability, like as a project in that capacity. But I don't know. I honestly, this is my personal speculation. But I suspect that this somehow affects her image in the authoritative way. She's probably, you know what I mean? So, and then the end result is she's been a project manager in the IT organization for a number of years. So she has been, as long as I do, like project manager, and eventually she left the company. So I guess, in a sense, again, I'm speculating, that's an indication of how the image can help perception can drive the aspect of your career. And lastly is the PM languages. So as a professional PM, there are certain terminologies, languages we typically use: time, resources, constraints, risk issues. Right? Even though you are not a PM, use those words. Use those words. Okay. So my LinkedIn profile. Okay. So I need to speed up a little bit. PMP certification. The quick answer is yes. You need to get it. This is an entry ticket. The value is probably not as much, but just having it is a ticket that you need to get in. Actually, I found that a hard way. I thought I have the whole thing. I started to apply positions. And then I talked to, and obviously I got rejected. And I talked to my mentor. What she said is, oh, you don't have a PMP. So what big of a hint is that? So I went ahead and get my PMP, and that was it. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
Did you get your PMP certification here?
Yeah.
I'm in GRED ClinOps. We don't have the PMP boot camp, so I'm wondering.
Yeah, the company pays for it. Yeah. Your manager, if your manager is supportive enough, and then he's willing to pay for it, you pay for it. So what I did a crash course. Some people obviously they take their time, they do their study on their own, but at that time I'm ready. I have everything, I have my credential, I have my condition, so I'm ready to go. I just need the certificate. So my manager is very supportive, so we pay $3,500 and a boot camp 3 days, and the 4th day on the weekend I just got it, that's it. End of the story. So that's, for me, as simple as that. One thing I wanted to mention is go back to the PM language. So that helps me to actually imprint those PM language in my brain. Before I was using it loosely, like risk versus issue, I don't know the difference between those. Now I know, right? So those are the things that, as a professional, there's a level of professionalism you're expected. So that's what the PMP will give you. Okay, so 5 more minutes. So the next 2 slides is actually pretty straightforward. This is about how to write a resume. My biggest challenge at the time is I actually don't know where to start. Like I mentioned, the LinkedIn profile, all I have is technical stuff, Python project, blah, blah, blah. And then I try different things. I do a lot of online search. I see there's a way of you doing the functional versus chronicle. Functional is that you highlight the things that, per the internet suggestions, say, okay, you highlight for something who enter a new career, you highlight the skill set, and then you put your things you've done in the back. So I presented to my mentor. She's not willing to say no. but her message is no. And somehow she just doesn't feel comfortable. Until I come to a point that I just stick with the chronicle traditional one, but I actually modify the bullet points, the content of those to reflect what I have, to reflect more on the PM side. Pretty much the same process I've done with the LinkedIn profile. Then she starts, yeah, you did a good job, blah, blah, blah. So that's where it is. But by the way, I got a professional help. It's not that I need someone to help me to lie. It's that person helped me to actually to find the keywords that people are looking for. Then there are keywords for different type of PM. So what I did is I brought a couple of openings in front of her, and she was able to highlight for different PM positions, there are different keywords. And she said, you need to have that in your resume. Highlight that, find out the things that you have done in that aspect. So it's not the same like a one-size-fits-all. I mean, my eyes is not trained looking for keywords. To me, the PM job did not look the same. Any questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned the importance of language also in personal branding, learning to talk like a project manager,
Yeah.
using those terms before you even become a project manager. Is there any resources you'd recommend to find out what this vocabulary is or the specific skill set of project manager language?
I think that it depends on where you are in your career, in your journey. So if you are in the very beginning, so if you have a chance, look at the PMP, the PMBOK, that book. But that book is very dry, very dry to read. It's almost impossible. But that's the only thing I can think of, honestly, is, that's the Bible. Any other questions? Okay, last slide. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that rejection is a good thing. I got rejected many, many times, so every time actually leads me to closer to my position now. I fully leverage the rejection. So what I did is I look inside. Obviously, look outside, it's even more difficult for me because from outside people's here, I have a little bit of a capital I can bank on. I've been with Genentech for so long, I'm loyal, I have a good performer, so I have that capital, so I can bank on. And then so, rejection, I still got rejected many times. In the beginning, I was so heartbroken, I was taking really personally, I was devastated. But after that, I feel like this is just gave me another opportunity to marketing myself. And there's one more person, and one more team knows I wanted to be a PM. And the valuable mentor relationship that was built at that time. So don't get deterred from that. There will be someone somewhere have the open mindedness and willing, have the business need and willing to accept you if you're ready. And that's it.